Tansei, I'm Chris Nashkete. Welcome to APTN National News Daytime. Thank you for joining us. The family of a woman killed by a serial killer in 2022 is one step closer to hopefully being able to get their daughter's remains excavated from a Winnipeg landfill. With the latest, here's APTN's TR Wheatley.
Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew told a room full of reporters the Brady Road landfill search for Ashley Shingoose is expected to start in December, saying the process will resemble a search that was done this past year for two other women who were also killed by the same serial killer as Ashley. The Shingoose family welcomed the Premier to their home in the St. Teresa Anishinaabe Nation for a sweat lodge ceremony earlier this month. Albert and Teresa wanted to start the physical search of the Brady landfill for their daughter Ashley off in a good way. Kinew says he was grateful for the moving ceremony.
So now we're moving ahead to the next steps, which involve hiring the searchers. We've done sort of our preliminary test search already. This is very much the same process we used at Prairie Green Landfill, and now we're just doing it at Brady. And because we're there, City of Winnipeg has been great. Winnipeg Police Service have been great about collaborating with us.
In 2022, Rebecca Contois, Morgan Harris, Mercedes Myron, and Ashley Shingoose were brutally murdered. Their serial killer is serving a concurrent life sentence for first-degree murder ×4. Harris and Myron's remains ended up at a privately owned Prairie Green landfill. Last December, the province began searching, and after only 3 months, some remains from both were found. Shingoose was killed a couple months before the others, and her remains ended up at Brady Road. She went unidentified for 3 years. Even during the trial, she was only known as Buffalo Woman. It was months after the killer went to prison that police went back to interview him, which gave the police more evidence to identify Shingoose. Kinew says with the work at Prairie Green now completed, they have begun moving equipment to Brady landfill.
We've been doing the decommissioning activities, so it might look like there's activities on site, but it's not related to the search per se. It's because we had buildings there that were moving to Brady, trailers that were being moved to other locations, things like that.
This mobile home was placed near Prairie Green for a safe space for the Harris and Myron families to go to during the search. It may move to Brady Road, but it may also serve another purpose. Melissa Robinson is Harris's cousin.
We wanted to ensure that it was going to be fair. And we like the idea of, giving it to, an organization maybe that could use it for our unsheltered women, our women at risk.
She now works with the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs, helping other families in need. And just last week, Harris's daughter, Cambria Harris, began working for the province.
Cambria is a rock star.
She is currently the special assistant to the finance minister with a focus on reconciliation.
She showed poise, intelligence, moral courage, and I just think this is a great Manitoban that we have, and hopefully over her time working with us in government we'll be able to build her up for the next stage of her career and the next stage of contributions to public life in Canada.
The fact that political spaces are hiring people with lived experiences is a good thing, says Robinson.
And looking at doing these types of roles, you need to have people that are impacted. People, sadly, that know that hurt, that know that loss.
The Brady Road landfill search for Ashley is also expected to include searching for Tanya Nepanak. She went missing in 2011. A different killer was charged in 2012 for her disappearance and murder, but those charges were stayed. Back then, Winnipeg police only searched for a week and were not successful. As of right now, though, the province isn't saying much about what the search for Tanya will look like. TR Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
193. That's how many days it's been since Addison King's grandmother started keeping a journal about how it feels to keep her granddaughter's memory alive. APTN video journalist Rachel May sat down with Gwen King, who spoke about the time that's passed since her granddaughter's death and the ongoing search for justice.
I want the awareness out there. If it can help somebody, can help save somebody, if it can help other families that are grieving, that's what it's there for.
Gwen King, Addison's grandmother, says she loved to bake, listened to music, and had many friends. October 27th, 2025 marks what would have been Addison's 19th birthday.
It's important that we honor Addison as much as we can. And every day I do that because I think that awareness needs to be brought forward, even if it's sometimes triggering.
On April 14th, 2025, Addison said see you later to her grandparents before leaving her house in Meadow Lake, Saskatchewan, and heading to an outdoor party on the Flying Dust First Nation next door. Around 2 a.m., she left the party. That was the last time she was seen alive. Her body was found 2 days later near a river near the Flying Dust First Nation. Gwen says she began counting the days since Addison's body was found as a way to keep track of her thoughts and hold on to her memory.
So that's one of the reasons why I write every day, is just the awareness, thinking of all the other families that have went through the same thing we are going through.
Today marks day 193 since starting Gwen's journal. Some days she shares her thoughts, other days details of the case, always ending with a call for justice while honoring Addison's joy.
But right now, I will continue to document every day, continue to pray for our family.
No arrests have been made in connection to Addison's death. Earlier this year, Saskatchewan RCMP said evidence suggests her death was not criminal. Gwen says she has been disappointed with the RCMP from day one, saying they did not tape off the scene where she was found and have not properly investigated her death.
I know people that have went in and talked with the RCMP and walked out upset because they don't want to hear it. They just don't want to hear anything in regards to Addison.
APTN reached out to the RCMP for comment, but had not received a response at the time of broadcast. Rachel May, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
Allegations of sexual harassment against the CEO of an Inuit nonprofit organization in Winnipeg have sparked a new social media movement called #InuitMeToo. An online petition with almost 1,300 signatures is calling for the resignation of Manitoba Inuit Association CEO Nastanya Mullen, citing allegations of sexual assault, harassment, and intimidation. It says Mullen has used cease and desist letters to silence people speaking out about his alleged actions. The group says an interim CEO has been appointed, but they're not saying who it is or if Mullen is still with the organization. Tara Tutu Fotheringham is the president of Amuti Nunavut Inuit Women's Association. She says many Inuit communities are small, so it can be difficult for women to feel safe sharing their experiences of sexual violence and harassment. She also says the #InuitMeToo movement shows how widespread the issue is.
We've seen some people post on Facebook their own story, not related to this individual, but they're now coming out and they're actually identifying their own perpetrators. So we are definitely seeing that women are feeling much safer socially and publicly to say this as a way of just releasing the secret. And that's what we're hearing, that, you know, by keeping the secret for so long, it made them feel like they weren't heard and they weren't valued.
A parliamentary committee continued its study of Indigenous policing and public safety this week. On Monday, the Standing Committee on Indigenous and Northern Affairs heard from Eskasoni First Nations Chief Leroy Denny. From 1994 to 2001, First Nations in Nova Scotia's Cape Breton area were served by their own tribal police force, but it was disbanded due to a lack of government funding. Since then, First Nations in Nova Scotia are now served solely by the RCMP. Last year in September, the people of Elsipogtog First Nation in New Brunswick called for the removal of the RCMP following the RCMP shooting death of Stephen Iggy Deedham. Chief Denny told the committee the current model is not working, noting a high turnover rate, and most Mounties are not equipped to work with Mi'kmaq communities.
I feel that we need Mi'kmaq or Indigenous officers in our communities in order to operate our communities. There's too many issues that our people are facing. When we have different officers that they're on a short time, it's affecting, they're not doing community policing. They're not culturally sensitive enough for them to do our own policing in our communities because we don't have Mi'kmaq speaking officers anymore.
Chiefs and dignitaries gathered in North Battleford, Saskatchewan on Monday morning for a special groundbreaking ceremony for the future home of the Gold Eagle Casino. The new 67-acre, $100 million project will be located along Highway 16 on the city's west side, where the Gold Eagle Casino will be relocated and a major expansion will happen. The Mosquito Grizzly Bears Head Lean Man First Nation secured the land through its holdings and commercial development company. The new development will include a hotel, a convention center, and cultural gathering space. Organizers say the new casino will generate millions in annual tourism revenue to the city and attract more than 500,000 visitors to the city each year. There is also plans to build future developments on the site, including more commercial and community infrastructure. In a statement, Chief Tanya Aguilar-Antaman said, "With the full support of our elders, chiefs, and council, we are moving forward with purpose. This investment allows us to focus development in one area, making our efforts stronger, more efficient, and more impactful. It's a strategic decision that will benefit our members today and for generations to come." We're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can continue the conversation with us. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. And to read and watch our stories, you can go to www.aptnnews.ca. And you can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. Coming up next, we'll bring you an update from the First Nations Health Ombudsman in the Prairies. Plus, our reporter Sarah Connors brings us a preview of what she's working on.
I'm Sarah Connors here in Mayo, Yukon, about a 4.5 hours drive north of Whitehorse and home to the First Nation of Notchonayakdun. Coming soon on APTN National News, I'll bring you a story on how Hollow Presence is helping the nation preserve its language, culture, and teachings. And with the territorial election just around the corner, we'll hear from Chief Donna Hope about the issues she wants the next government to prioritize, especially in regards to mining. Stay tuned for those stories on APTN National News.
Welcome back. How First Nations people are treated in the healthcare system was in the spotlight on Monday, and as CTV's Keenan Sorokin tells us, a new report outlines 2 years of complaints, resolutions, and recommendations to improve the healthcare experience in Saskatchewan.
The First Nations Health Ombudsperson is out with her inaugural report, aiming to shed a light and help end healthcare disparities facing First Nations people.
We're here for you, and we're working hard to elevate your voices in those spaces that have been silenced for far too long.
Diane Lafon's office has received roughly 500 complaints, a little more than 2 years after being created, and the data compiled shows a variety of complaints ranging from care treatment at emergency rooms or hospitals to pharmacies, ambulances, and long-term care homes. And the data is beginning to reveal hotspots that need a closer look.
There's many First Nations around Shellbrook. They built that beautiful new hospital, yet people go there and the doors are closed.
Lafon says First Nations people don't trust or maybe don't feel safe returning to a hospital or area where they were mistreated. Now they have a place that can work on their behalf to elevate a complaint. A trend Lafon's office is noticing is increased use of non-disclosure agreements, which can limit the scope of their investigations.
It silences the victim. And I say victims because they are victims, are people who are being mistreated.
Lafon says her office has established a working relationship with the Saskatchewan Health Authority, who has referred some cases to her. The plan is to work closer with the SHA in the coming years.
But with anything, it takes time. We want to do it right, but we want inclusion.
Lafond hopes this initial report will affect more change within the system and give her office a voice for future policy changes moving forward. Keenan Sorokin, CTV News, Saskatoon.
Montreal's McGill University recently hosted an event called Speaking Through Craft, Cultural Storytelling in Business with some familiar Indigenous entrepreneurs. And as APTN's Kim Sullivan reports, when culture meets commerce, a brand can become more than a product.
Through their brands, these women have woven identity with historical and cultural narratives, creating successful businesses that celebrate Indigenous representation and values.
We reached out to Bastien Industries up in Quebec.
When Brittany Janvier did her postgraduate studies at McGill University's Des Hotels Faculty of Management in Montreal, she was the only Indigenous student in her class. Organizing this event, called Speaking Through Craft, Cultural Storytelling in Business, was a full circle moment.
Being here today with these women entrepreneurs, I think that's something huge. I think that's something we don't hear very often. I think we have to be very appreciative of that. You know, I think that giving them a voice and a space to talk their story, to talk about what they do, to share it with a group of students, faculty, staff, it's something small in the big picture, but it's a step in the right direction.
It was with pride that she welcomed the founder of Cheekbone Beauty Cosmetics, Jen Harper, and the two ladies behind the brand Minitipi, Trisha Petura and Melanie Bernard. These two brands are proof that Indigenous-led businesses can serve as a powerful vessel for cultural narratives.
The brand Cheekbone literally started because of this dream I had of 3 Indigenous little girls covered in lip gloss.
For Jen Harper, storytelling is an integral part of the company's origins, born from a dream that guided her towards entrepreneurship and continues to inspire its journey. The products' names, along with their natural sources, are deeply rooted in the teachings of her Anishinaabe culture.
Storytelling has been a huge part of the brand, and I think if we look at many of the most successful brands around the world, they all have a great story to tell.
It's not always easy to blend culture into your brand when 95% of your clientele is non-Indigenous. However, Cheekbone Beauty Cosmetics does it in a way that each product becomes a tool for cultural teaching.
That can be difficult because, you know, all of our languages, Indigenous people, are not the easy. They're like some 17 letters, right? So it's important, but we really do the work of making sure that the words are going to come off their lips at some point. If not the product on their lips, we want the Indigenous words to come off their lips too.
Minitipi's co-founders have the same line of thought.
And the name of this design is Kwe.
Each textile pattern is rich in symbolism and carries deep knowledge.
It's really important for us to ensure that Indigenous voices are heard, and through design we storytell, sharing knowledge through the design so that our customers can feel empowered and start conversations by learning more about the Indigenous culture and the teachings that we share through our designs.
For both businesses, their brand carries meaning beyond beauty. Through their narrative, they are committed to challenging myths and amplifying Indigenous truths.
When we were launching into Sephora in 2021, it's such a big, they're the biggest beauty retailer in the world. So we knew that the platform and our audience was going to shift. And I personally, and many in my community and friends, we've had the big discussions around this like Hollywood version of what people think an Indigenous person is supposed to look like. And unfortunately, it's not true. We come in all different shades and ranges and skin tones. So it was important that we tell that story.
Not many people know about Indigenous stories.
The panel's moderator, Matthew Sabo, is studying in the same retail management program that Brittany Janvier graduated from 3 years ago. Like her, he recognizes that cultural representation is important in the business world and that every culture must find ways to be heard.
Everyone should have the opportunity to talk about their story in business, and, I think right now it's our turn.
Kim Sullivan, APTN National News, Montreal.
We now want to tell you about this week's web poll question. Over on our website, we ask, should federal inmates be paid minimum wage for the work they do? This is regarding last weekend's APTN Investigates episode. You can answer yes, no, or unsure. Go to aptnnews.ca to have your say. Before we go to break, time now for a sneak peek at what TR Wheatley is working on for tonight's newscast.
Sergeant Tommy Prince of Broken Head Ojibwe Nation, who received numerous awards.
The ceremonial celebration for Sergeant Tommy Prince is taking place here in Petersfield, a small community where he was born on October 25th in 1915, which of course is 110 years ago.
I'm Karen Braun Prince, Sergeant Tommy Prince's youngest daughter. I've never been here, but it's an amazing place. I can see just the wholesome people.
And just to think about the rippling effect and the inspiration that he generated through his lifetime.
Remembering a Manitoba hero, tonight on APTN National News.
Well, all in for staying with us. Rain in Charlottetown at 9. Sun's out in Halifax at 12. Cartwright 7. The Grand River 7. Gaspé 9. Quebec City partly cloudy and 7. Ottawa 8. Sarnia 11. 6 in Sudbury. Sioux Lookout 5. Churchill 6. Norway House 5. 8 in Gimli. Dauphin 2 and sunny. Regina 2. Yorkton 0. 2 in Uranium City. Buffalo Narrows 0. Peace River 5. Port Chipewyan 2. Edmonton 9. Medicine Hat 13. 12 in Vancouver. Quesnel 9. Prince George 8. Dease Lake 2. 0 in Watson Lake. Rock River -9. 0 in Fort Simpson. Watee 0. Sax Harbor -5 and sunny. Polituck -7. 1 in Chesterfield. Whale Cove 3. And Clyde River -1. Arctic Bay -14 and sunny. Musician Francis Baptiste is very upfront about his struggles with addictions, divorce, and trying to make ends meet in one of the most expensive places to live in Canada. He's just released his new album, Lived Experience in East Vancouver, that details those struggles. Tonight on an all-new episode of Face to Face, Baptiste says he hopes his straight talk hits home with his listeners. Here's a preview.
I always try to aim to be as candid and as open and honest and vulnerable as I possibly can be. I think vulnerability is such an important quality in art, and for artists to have to truthfully convey their story and their message. And that's really kind of all I try to bring with my art, is to create some relatability for other people who have had similar struggles as myself, whether you're an addict, whether you struggle with alcohol or drug addiction, or whether you've been, a single father or a single parent. It can be very difficult, and living in an expensive city, living far away from my community, the Osirius Indian Band in South Okanagan. All of these struggles, I think, make me more human, and hopefully make me relatable to anyone else who's had any of these individual struggles themselves.
APTN's Face to Face with Dennis Ward will air today at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right after your evening newscast. And that's your daytime newscast for this Tuesday. Dennis Ward is back for your evening newscast in a few hours. Please join us then. Hi, miigwech masi chokwana. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again next day.